Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Star Trek Voyager, Season 5, Episode 2, Drone. I would say this was a really good episode. I really liked it. The ending just sucker punches you right in the stomach. The only downside to this episode is that we've seen it before. Over and over and over again. So from the very beginning, just Seven trying to smile is absolutely adorable. Like, you can tell that she's trying to embrace her humanity, but she's struggling with it. Like, all of season 4 was so Seven heavy because they kept trying to force this new character on us, and she didn't really go very far. Towards the end, she kind of did, but this episode really kind of shows, like, oh, she's trying to be a human. The Doctor has some great lines where he's trying to also embrace her humanity, but she keeps resisting, and he's like, oh, the Borg, the party poopers of the galaxy. And it's like, 5 years ago or whatever, when we first introduced the Borg, they wrecked our shit, and they have been the most intense antagonists we've had in Star Trek, and you just boiled them down to party poopers. So, that kind of made me take a little bit of a step back. Which also makes sense in Star Trek, because every series of Star Trek has to one-up the last one. Like, in the original, the Klingons were the big bad, and then we got the Next Generations, and they're like, oh, the Klingons? That's our security officer, and so on and so forth. In this episode, they get the idea to design a better shuttle, which, as we'll find out pretty soon, is the Delta Flyer, which is a bitchin' shuttle. Super excited to see that one. I remember it was always my favorite when I was a little kid, and then we got the Hallmark Christmas ornament of it, and I lost it. I was like, this is so amazing! So I love that. Some of the crew go on an away mission, and on beaming back, the Doctor's mobile emitter is damaged, and that kind of bugs me a little bit, and we'll kind of get to that towards the end. But it gets damaged, and B'Elanna's like, oh, it's been fused. I'll go ahead and fix that. And they put it in the science wing, whatever, to work on. So eventually, B'Elanna kind of wakes up, and the Doctor wakes her up with one of my favorite lines in Star Trek, where he's like, the early bird gets the gawk, which is a reference to the Klingon food, which is basically just a bunch of worms. And I don't know why. I love puns, and I love stupid jokes like that, even though I'm not a dad. I love dad humor. And I think that was great. Just the early bird gets the gawk. I'm going to use that from now on. We get a little bit of nudity, kind of the most we've seen in Star Trek at this point, where, B'Elanna decides, she's like, okay, I'll deal with your emitter later. I'm going to take a sonic shower, and she, starts to take off her clothes, and you can clearly see, her back and stuff like that. At this point, the most sexualized Star Trek was Uhura and, Seven of Nine's tight outfits and stuff like that. Whereas this is actually starting to get into nudity. Whereas, then we'll get into Enterprise, where they step that up even more, and then Discovery, which completely blows it out of the water, where they're like, here you go, here's full-blown nudity for you. So it was kind of interesting. Anyways, the Doctor's emitter ends up basically fusing with some of Seven of Nine's Borg nanites, and it actually starts evolving into a Borg. And there's some really great scenes where we see the baby slowly start to evolve very, very quickly. And they decide to give him the title of One, and because he wants a designation. And Seven of Nine basically becomes the mother figure for the episode, where she's taking him under her wing and kind of showing him things, and they call him One. And that's kind of interesting because episode 25 of the last season was called One, and that whole episode was about Seven being by herself on Voyager, running the whole ship. And now we have this lone Borg droid trying to figure out his life. He's very reminiscent of Hugh, or 3 of 5, from the Next Generation, which is kind of where I'll go ahead and segue there. I love this episode. I think it's a great episode, but this whole episode is basically recycled plot material from the Next Generation. And I've said that before, whereas the Next Generation had great plots. Voyager copies a lot of those plots, and then Deep Space Nine is somewhere in the middle, where a lot of people don't give it a shot because it's so unique and it's so different. So anyways, we see the baby drone, and Seven of Nine even comments this isn't how drones the Borg assimilate, they don't reproduce, and this isn't how we do things, which is kind of meh, because if you go back to the first time we see the Borg, we do see Borg babies with the implants and stuff like that. Granted, they could have assimilated the infants, but still, at that point, that's how we thought that they reproduced. So Seven kind of retcons that a little bit, saying like, no, we assimilate. This is not assimilation. This is reproduction, and we don't do that, which is kind of funny. And then they realize that the Doctor's mobile emitter is actually a 29th century technology. So this is a 29th century Borg. Like, this is a future Borg. So, and they name all sorts of stuff that it has, like its shields, and it can teleport, and it has all sorts of stuff. So anyways, one ends up transmitting that he's alive, or he exists, and a Borg sphere comes to basically investigate it, which this is the first time we've seen a Borg sphere outside of the movie First Contact. So that's kind of interesting. So, of course, they end up kind of battling it and doing the war with the sphere. One teleports over to it, basically decimates it, and comes back. And he's all injured and stuff, and Seven's like, okay, we're going to heal you, and you'll be okay. And so the Doctor goes to heal him, and he won't let him. He activates his force fields. And Seven's like, drop your shields and let us help you. And he's like, no, I'm a unique individual, and the Borg are not going to leave you alone if I exist. And he basically lets himself die. And it's, like I said, it's a gut punch. Like, it's really difficult to watch. I'm going to get emotional talking about this. It's difficult to watch Seven talk to him and say, don't do this. You can survive and we will take care of you. But he doesn't. He does pass away. And again, like I said, it's very reminiscent of The Next Generation, where the Doctor creates his daughter and she ends up passing away. Or even the Doctor, who had been in the same situation with his holographic family, and his daughter passes away. So it's almost like 7 of 9 has lost a son, and it's really hard. It's a really difficult moment to accept. So overall, I would say I really did like this episode a lot. They did a great job, even if it did kind of borrow elements from other series. I still really enjoyed it. It was really good. And 7 of 9, it's no secret, at least not to me in my opinion, that was brought aboard this show to be kind of a sex symbol, to kind of get all of the nerds horny and be like, oh, look at that. But like, this episode really proves how talented Jeri Ryan is as an actress, and how good she did, and how amazing that character is. Like, I'm super excited for Picard and seeing her return because of episodes like this and how good she does. So for those who have seen this episode, what did you guys think? Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing, and I will see you guys next time for Extreme Risk.